If you were going to give somebody 3 things, right, that makes a great hunter, what are those things?
The one we already talked about, and that's just longevity on the hunt. The other one is just a practical thing. They tend to know areas really well. They don't jump around units a ton. The other thing, the guys that kill a lot of elk, they push it. When they get an opportunity on elk to get the shit hunted out of them, they push it every time.
My name is Derek Wolfe. I'm a Super Bowl champion and a 10-year NFL vet. Now, after a decade of professional football, I'm focusing on my other passions. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Wolfe Untamed podcast. Today's episode is with Cliff Gray. Cliff has a business degree from Stanford and the University of Chicago. Cliff created a successful financial business and decided to sell that off to chase his real passion, which is the outdoors. So stay tuned. This is going to be a good one. All right, Cliff, we're here.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, I'm glad you can make it. It's perfect timing, too, because I was actually going to rip all my stuff out of my pack and ask you if I had the right shit to take up there or not.
Go mountain goat hunting?
Yeah, for this mountain goat hunt. So,
yeah. Are you packing 2 big balls with you? That's pretty much like the primary thing you need.
What?
You're nuts.
Oh, yeah.
For mountain goat
yeah,
hunting.
fuck yeah. Yeah, it's no problem. It's funny because I was like, how many pairs of pants should I take? And I was like, I'll take a pair of light ones and then a pair of heavy ones, you know?
Sure.
And then I was like, okay, how many tops do I need? And I sweat.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how cold it is. I'm going to sweat. So if I sweat, like if I take 2 shirts, I sweat those out. What am I going to rinse them in the water and then just like hang them? It's, it just sucks being out there sometimes whenever you run out of clothes. But
is it backpack hunt?
it's a backpack hunt. Yeah.
How many days?
10.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, man. Anytime I bring multiple layers on a backpack hunt, I tend to not use it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
You just get dirty, stinky, and keep going.
Yeah. Nobody cares. Like it doesn't matter. You're going to stink.
Yeah.
So where are you flying in from?
So I flew in from Hood River, Oregon today, Portland. But so I spend half my time there and then half my time in Puerto Rico.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Nice.
So,
you know, I was just reading a lot of your background, and I was reading up on you on your background, and you have a business degree from Stanford, and you have another degree from the University of Chicago.
yeah, I do.
That's incredible. Like you don't meet a lot of guides
No.
that have business degrees.
Yeah.
So you started a company, sold the company.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the beginning. Like, where'd you grow up? Just tell me where you grew up and how you got into the outdoors, and then how you got into the business world, and then let's just roll through that.
Yeah, it's funny, man. Like the joke that I always use, Derek, is that these like prestigious institutions, you know, they send out surveys to like their alumni, and they want to know your salary and your income level. And I'm sure when like Stanford or U Chicago gets my survey back, they're like, oh, fuck. We got to put this into the data set. You know what I mean? So I always laugh a little bit about that. But I did grow up in a rural environment, a hunting environment. So that's why there's a line there that gets me to the life that I have now, I suppose.
In Oregon? Did you grow up in Oregon?
No, so I grew up part of the year. So I was actually born in the same area, like just an hour from where I spent most of my time outfitting in Colorado.
Oh, okay.
So I was born in Glenwood Springs.
Oh, okay.
And then I spent half my childhood there, and then the other half in Northern California.
Okay, nice.
So just kind of a mix there.
Very outdoors.
Yeah, man.
Places.
Yeah, when I say Northern California, I mean like the Merle Haggard Northern California.
Yeah.
So a little bit further north, and I think people don't realize like that's actually a great area for an outdoors kid, man. Lots of fishing, lots of hunting. There's good waterfowl hunting.
Mild weather.
Yeah. So it's actually a pretty good environment, particularly if you have access to private land, which I did. Because what happened was my dad became a veterinarian like later on in life, which I never thought was weird. Now that I'm 40 years old, I realize that, my dad was a guide, outfitter, cattle ranch manager until he was like 40.
Yeah.
And then he went to vet school, became a vet, and that's why we ended up in California. But anyways, because of that, because he was a large animal veterinarian, I had access to a lot of good places to hunt. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So
those connections.
It's huge.
It's all about who you know.
Yeah. And I didn't realize that as a kid, how blessed I was to have that.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up as like necessarily a wealthy kid by any means, but I got to hunt some incredible places because of that access.
Which to me, that is wealth.
Yeah.
Being able to experience those. Anytime you get to experience things that not everybody gets to do, you know what I mean? I think that's more precious than any kind of money or any kind of, fiscal return that you could get on that. Like,
man.
That's something that sticks with you forever,
Yeah.
It was the same way growing up in Ohio for me. I had access to all kinds of, I never really had to hunt public land because I had so much private access that, it was incredible, just getting to see giant whitetails and turkey. And that was the only two animals really we could hunt there, other than like small game. But, people are diehards for whitetail.
Oh yeah.
Diehards for turkey. Like they live for it, So it was really fun, man. And I really cherish those times. So when you talk about like, oh, I wasn't wealthy, I think that, I was as poor as you could get as a kid, but I always felt like I had everything I needed, because I had all this access.
Oh yeah.
To just do wherever I wanted,
Yeah. And the crazy thing about it, it's a weird, not to get totally off track, Derek, but I deal with it with my own kids. Like it's actually difficult for me to get them exposed to the same environment because I live a different life than I did as a kid. So what I've realized is you have to be a little strategic about it, right? Like I'm living in Puerto Rico half the year. I love it there. Obviously there's not a lot of hunting there, but there's a lot of diving. Mm-hmm. So I got my daughter, like my daughter, like it's amazing kids can pick stuff up so quickly, but my oldest daughter's already like a phenomenal free diver.
How old is she?
She's 11.
Oh, and she's already free diving?
Yeah, she's 40-foot, 50-foot diver, which is pretty incredible.
Well, yeah, we were just talking about my experience doing free diving, and like I can only go to 40 to 45 feet.
Yeah. But that's deep, man. Like, it's, yeah. I mean, in the spectrum of things, but no, it's just, it's weird that you have to get your kids exposed to that stuff, however it is. And for me, you can get so stuck on the type of hunting that you're doing, like, oh, mule deer hunting, elk hunting. That's like the apex of hunting or whatever. And in the end, man, like, I think we get too carried away with that. Whatever you got, go do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because as a kid, dude, that's what I did. I didn't realize I was doing it. But when there was a hunting season, like, I was hunting.
Yeah.
Guarantee I hunted 120 plus days a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Just by default. You're probably the same way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And part of that was because I wasn't picky about it. It was like turkey season, I was going turkey hunting. Duck season, I was going duck hunting.
It was any reason to be out in the woods, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Anytime, like, okay, we're going to go out and look for sheds.
Sure.
Or, we're going to go, set up trail cams. We're going to do this or that. Like, we didn't really have trail cams when I was a kid, but like as I got older, it started to become a thing. But it's still, or we're going to create a new bedding area.
Yeah.
And we thought we knew what the hell we were doing, but really nothing ever bedded in those.
Yeah.
Those cuts that we made. We were like, oh yeah, they're going to bed here for sure. Mm-hmm. And it was just a couple of dummies out there just, trying to figure it out.
Having fun though.
But it was fun,
Yeah.
Going out, just splitting logs and like all that shit was so instrumental in like shaping me into who I am. And being self-sufficient, as far as like, like knowing that I can go take care of myself and my family and feed my family. And those, it's not going to be easy, but it's nothing worth doing ever is, but at the end of the day, that's what I try to do with my kids, especially my youngest. My oldest she's not really into it, like like being out in the outdoors and stuff. She's like, no, that's not for me. Like,
interest.
Yeah, she's smart. She's way too smart, I think, is what it is. She's like a 4.2 GPA. Like, she's
killing it.
Yeah, she's a genius. So she's like, what do I want to do that for? But my youngest is like into it. She'll come out there and she'll go on hikes with us and. Like I take her up to our cabin and I'll, especially in September, I'll get her out there and we'll just like go out there and I'll rip some bugles and listen to elk and get her up close to elk and, just so she can experience that, because I think that's, I dreamed of that when I was at that age, big bugle and elk, just seeing it like Primo's videos and stuff. And I was like, dude, this would be, it's like my dream. So,
yeah.
So you grew up so how long did you live in Colorado?
So I lived there until, it's kind of a convoluted because when my dad was going to vet school, we were going back and forth.
Were you driving?
What do you mean?
Driving back and forth?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dude, when I was a kid, we drove everywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're probably the same boat.
I didn't get on an airplane until I was a freshman in college. So
yeah. So, so we were driving back and forth doing the thing. But basically, it was like 60-40, 60% of the time in Colorado, 40% of the time out there. Most my later high school years out there. So, But yeah, from there, man, went very much a traditional path. My kind of followed my brother's footsteps, went to school. I had one of my brothers was at Wharton, one of my brothers was at Stanford. I decided California was better, so I applied there, went there, studied economics and computer science. And I don't know, Derek, it's hard. People ask me, like, what were you... It's weird because I think even at the time, if I would ask my dad or my mom or, like, people close to me, they would have been like, Cliff, what are you doing, dude? Like, this is not you, you know? But I think I can't explain it, and it could have been maybe... You might be able to relate to this. I never wanted to be poor.
Yeah.
I wanted, like, it was very important to me. And I'm talking when I was like 16, 17, 18. Like, it was important to me to be able to, like, that was not going to be an option in my life. And so I had like a chip on my shoulder at that time. And I think that's why I pursued a very traditional path. I think if you looked at my decisions, they were all very money oriented.
Yeah.
Like, I was going to school where I wanted to go. I was choosing certain majors for that reason. And I ended up working in a profession for that reason. And I don't say that in a negative way, Derek, because there are things about finance. That's what I ended up doing. I went directly into the finance world. And it was like at the apex of like absurdity on Wall Street, right? Kids were getting out at like undergrad and getting Porsches as signing bonuses.
Yeah.
You know, crazy shit. Well, your world's, I'm sure you can relate in a much even more extreme way, but like young guys and gals were getting thrown in these gigs where they were making an insane amount of money, a lot of like prestige thrown on them just because Wall Street was on fire. You know what I mean? So I went into that and I enjoyed it, man. I enjoyed like the intellectual stimulation of it. I primarily was a trader, and then in the sense of being a trader, I did execute like what would be straight execution that was just buying and selling whatever it was, debt, equities, anything, but actually just selling them or doing the transactions for other people that were managing the strategy.
So doing the underwriting?
No, it wasn't underwriting. It was like literally somebody would, like, I worked for different entities, a couple of hedge funds, and then a family, like a wealthy family. And they would have like a trade, a strategy, and they would come to me and be like, how would you, go out there and efficiently buy this, that, the different things they needed to implement the strategy. So that's like just execution trading. So I did that a fair amount. And then during that period of time, it's so crazy because it's so abstract to me now, because this is when I was like a kid, man.
Yeah.
This is like 21 to 24, And then through that, I had a couple little strategies that I developed. One was around tobacco bonds, which is like a certain type of debt instrument that we could go into like a hole for hours about it. But I developed a strategy around tobacco bonds and kind of traded that myself. And I did it for a family that I worked for. And it was fun, man. I honest to God, I think people ask me like, oh, you must have hated it. That's why you got back into outfitting or back into like the rural world. I didn't, dude. I liked a lot of parts of it. The thing I hated about it, and it's changed a little bit now, but back then, man, now that was almost 20 years ago or whatever, you had to live in a metropolis.
Yeah.
You were living in Manhattan, you were living in Los Angeles, San Francisco, maybe Dallas. And during that period of time, I lived in all those places. And I liked them. I liked them as like a young guy for, the excitement of it. But dude, I think they screw you up psychologically. At least if you're somebody who's used to like a rural area where you can go out and enjoy the outdoors, you're kind of fucked in that environment.
Oh, it sucks.
You can't, like, you're not, you can enjoy yourself there, and there's, cities are great and the intellectual stimulation's awesome, but your longevity, like the wick's on fire, man.
Exactly.
Like you're eventually you're gonna be like, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
So that's what it was for me. I ended up, this whole thing swirled into a deal with my brother who's still in the finance space. We had a little business. I sold my chunk of my business back to him. An enormous financial mistake. He's insanely successful now. But that's okay. That's all good, man. He built it way beyond what we had at that time. And I was like, all right, I'm like 24. What am I going to do? So me and my girlfriend at the time, we moved back to Eagle up in the mountains where I was just familiar with.
Yeah.
And we started skiing, man. We skied for 7-8 months. pretty much, like crazy. My wife loves skiing, and she's my girlfriend at that time. Now my wife. And 7 months in, dude, I was like, I got to start doing something new.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like things happen chance, but I had known about these permits in the Flat Tops Wilderness area when I was a kid. And they were a big set of permits in the outfitting world. They were kind of like the guys when I was 12 years old. They were the guys that had like a big thriving elk business. And that was like the heyday of the elk in Colorado. Like it was not a big deal for an outfitting business, like a big horse operation, packing operation, to pack out 70, 80 bulls a season, like a shitload of elk. And so that was the place. And I remember one day I was with my wife, and I was like, hey, let's just drive up there. You drive up to the old place I used to know and see what's up. And it's at the very end of a road. And so it's right up against the wilderness area. And it was like, I want to say it's like October 20th, October 25th, early snow though. Like it was like already at 7,500 feet, 8,000 feet, right in the sagebrush as it goes up into the wilderness area there was like knee to thigh snow. Like, and if you're outfitting, that's like, it's great because everybody's killing stuff, but it's like, holy shit, it came early. You got camps all over and everything. So by chance, man, we drove up there and I saw an older guy walking this mule down these switchbacks, and everything was pretty run down from what I remember the place. It was like a thriving business when I was a kid. I was like, huh. So I drove up to him and the mule was lame, and I got to talking to him about it, and he starts telling me like, oh yeah, the guys that owned this place when you were a kid, one of them died at an early age and kind of fell apart. And he's like, and I happened to actually buy it, really just because by default he had bought it and he wasn't really interested in running it. And I was like, man, you ever think about selling it? And he looked at me and he's like, son, you better fucking believe it. And like 2 weeks later, I owned it.
And do you mind asking like how much would some like those permits cost if you buy that whole outfit?
Yeah, so it's they trade in a weird way because they don't trade like normal businesses. You know what I mean? Like it's not like that business wasn't making any money, so it's not like people sell them on multiples or whatever. In this case, I just paid him because there wasn't a lot of hunts and stuff going on, and it was during the financial crisis, so it wasn't bumping like it was now. It was like shit was not good. You know what I mean? So I basically paid him what the gear, horses, and stuff like that was worth, whatever that was. I honestly can't remember, but it was 100, 150 grand, something like in that realm or whatever. But it was just like buying gear and horses and equipment and tents and all that stuff. And then the one thing, and anybody interested in this space, it's always the recommendation that I make to them, particularly if you're operating on public land, is I bought a piece of property at the same time, a piece of private, that I could start running it out of, and I could start to improve.
Yeah.
So I did that, and that really helped me out, man.
Yeah. Instead of being like away from it, you could be hands on.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And you can really like start to develop, like a facility to operate out of and get your logistics under control.
Yeah.
These businesses, like you're going up to BC, those guys are the epitome of it, man. Like people think that these hunting businesses are all about like. It's almost hilarious, Derek. I talk to young guides, and they think that being a phenomenal hunter matters. Every guide after a couple of years is a phenomenal hunter just by reps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not that's not the name of the game. The name of the game is making sure nobody dies and that all the variables that you can control are under control. It's like very much a logistics business.
Yeah, so I always say when I go on a hunt, like an outfitted hunt, I always say there's three things that are important, right? The hunting, the food, and the people.
Yeah.
And you have to have two or three of those. If the hunting sucks, the people and the food better be good.
Yeah.
If the food sucks, the people and the hunting better be good. But if you have like if you can't get all three of those, or you only got one of those, it ends up being a shitty situation. It's no fun. Yeah. And that's why it's important as like an outfitter, I think, to make sure that you're giving the hunter the best experience possible.
Oh yeah.
Right? And it's not about the kill, right?
Sure.
It's everything in between that. And then the experience, and then ultimately, like, hopefully we get an animal down. But, at the end of the day, if they had a great experience, they're going to come back.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, dude, and you put it perfectly, because those three things, like two of them are controllable things, right?
Yeah.
Food, lodging, the crew, your logistics, all that stuff controllable. Like that better be right. Particularly, I mean, there's a little variation in guiding, but if you're outfitting in remote areas, public land, all the areas in British Columbia, all the Alaskan guys, the wilderness guys in the States, like the hunting you can't control. And it's generally going to be real variable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Particularly elk hunting in the last decade.
Well, I always compare it for my wife, because we love to ski and snowboard as well, right?
Sure.
So I always try to tell her, she's like, well, how come you guys didn't, like, why is it taking so long?
Yeah, sure.
And I'm like, it's just like skiing. You can't control like what the snow's going to be like.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? It's the same way you can't control the weather. I
Yeah.
can't control the fucking moon. I can't, all these things that go into like movement of animals and their patterns. And, she always makes a joke, we have to live our life based around when elk and deer are rutting. And I'm like, I'm like, listen, if
You're born to live life that way.
Exactly.
Man.
I was like, it's like, September and November, those 2 months for me are like, sacred.
Yeah,
Those
sure.
are sacred months. So, I really think it's important for like these. I've had outfitters that just were like, phenomenal outfitters.
Sure.
So much. I had a blast, and we didn't kill anything.
Yeah.
But I had an awesome time. We had a ton of fun. It was expensive, but I had a ton of fun doing it. And we got to see some awesome animals and some really cool country. But then I've been with like some really, shitty outfitters, and we just got lucky,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Like we just got, we got lucky.
It is
And
very
we just kind of fell
sure.
into it. So like you cannot control the hunting. So
No.
like you said, you can control having a good cot and a tent set up for base camp, right? You can control making sure you got good mules and good horses to get you back there and comfortable. You can control what kind of camp cook you got. You can control your fresh ingredients. You can control whether you bring what you pack extra, with you. Because like when I first started elk hunting, I like didn't realize how much stuff I really needed when I was out there.
Right.
And it was like, oh, what's a jet boil? Never heard of that.
Yeah.
What are these peak meals? I never even heard of those. But if I'm like dying out there, I'm like, let me get 1,000 calories real quick. I'm ready to go again. So
sure.
it's like, those little things that you learn.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of the times as an outfitter, would you agree that it's just teaching those? A lot of guys just want to be taught.
Oh yeah, man.
They just want you to teach them. Like, what would you do?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What do you think we should do
all,
here?
I mean, all of this stuff, it kind of wraps up like my story, Derek. Like that stuff, man. That's what got me into all this YouTube stuff. I used to do it when I was outfitting. The sole purpose, man, for what guys are nervous because you're like, well, let's take you're going on a trip to British Columbia here tomorrow, right? So you're probably thinking, okay, do I have my gear packed where it's going to go on the airplane? Or are they going to make me feel, or not them, but is it going to feel awkward because I don't have my gear packed right to go on the airplane? Or, when I get there, am I going to have the right stuff? There's all that apprehension. That's why I started doing videos, man, because how many guys, if they haven't been on a horse or mule based hunt, knows how to like pack their stuff for that?
Yeah.
And
when you take horses and mules back there, you could take all kinds of good stuff back there.
Oh yeah, sure. But you still got to pack it.
But
in
it's got to be packed a certain way. You got to make sure you got waterproof bags and stuff. It's different for sure.
Yeah.
But do you ever run into guys that just couldn't ride a horse? Like they just couldn't sit on a mule?
Yeah, most guys that don't ride much.
Yeah.
They can't ride a horse. You know what I mean? But like I used to do little videos on that. Like, hey, these are some things you can, that can help the horse. Instead of like going uphill, don't grab on the horn and
lean forward.
Like help them
Give
out.
them help. What would you want if you were walking up this hill?
Yeah, and particularly big dudes like you, it's super relevant.
Yeah,
it's like it's a safety thing too.
I always I do a lot of walking with horses too.
Yeah,
because I just like I feel bad for the horse.
Yeah,
I'm like, dude, he's got to carry me around all day.
Yeah,
and really, the rule that I do is, when walking sounds good, I'll walk.
Sure.
When riding sounds good, that's when I'll ride.
Yeah.
Because how being in the saddle, some of these,
especially
those sheep hunts, you're on a horse for 8 hours.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is
brutal.
You've done a few horseback hunts.
A couple, yeah.
Yeah. So the whole there's this myth out there that horseback hunts aren't physical. They're physical in a lot different way.
Way different way.
Yeah. Sure, it's not cardio, it's not your core strength through your backpack, stuff like that. But it's almost I would describe it as a more painful way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're more sore, your joints and stuff are more sore.
You know, it's funny. This old timer told me, he said, you know how you know if you're riding your horse right, don't you? And I was like, how? He's like, well, if your legs are just sore and your upper body doesn't hurt, you're doing it wrong. If your upper body hurts and your legs aren't sore, you're doing it wrong. If both hurt, you're doing it right.
You got a good mix.
Yeah. He said your whole body is going to be fucking sore.
Yeah.
From riding that horse all day.
Yeah.
And it's funny because a lot of those mules aren't big enough they're not big, you know, they're not,
sure.
But their gait and the way they walk is so much smoother than like a big draft horse, you know?
Yeah.
Those big draft horses just knock you around the whole time. And it gets like, after about 2 hours, I'm like, dude, I'd rather walk. Let's go. I'd rather just walk this.
Well, and that's the thing, man. Not to get in like the crazy nitty gritty of it, but I find this stuff interesting. There's probably some folks out there that do. It's one thing, like a small mule could carry you.
Oh yeah.
Like back in the day when they were packing mules for like cavalry stuff, if you look at the old books, they're packing 450, 500 pounds on a mule for like 20 miles a day. So they can do it. You're not hurting mules to pack them like that. But what I found, because I started to get my knees and stuff, wear and tear injuries from just riding all the time, I had a lot of pain day to day. And man, my horses got smaller and smaller, and then they became mules.
Yep.
Because like you say, their gait's more comfortable. And the other thing about a mule, most mules kind of depends a little bit on the horse component of their genetics, but they're a lot thinner. You know, they don't have broad shoulders.
Yeah, so you're not.
Yeah, so you don't have
you're not spread out. You know, you don't
like
get
a lot
that bow leg.
Yeah, a lot of outfitters are gonna put you on a big drafty horse.
Yep.
And they're gonna be big, wide horses, and they tear you up.
They do, man. It tears you up. You know, it's
yeah.
funny. My friend Josh, he runs an outfit up in Wyoming, and you know, I was asking him, I was like, "What's the most valuable thing that you have, like in this camp, like in camp, when you're with your camp?" He's like, "It's my mule."
Oh yeah, sure.
He said, "I wouldn't sell that mule for $10 million."
Oh yeah,
that mule is like he was he does a lot of sheep guiding, and you know how that gets real Western, you know.
Yeah.
And he's shown me all these peaks that he's taken his mule to the peak.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how the hell did you get that? He's like, dude, this thing will go.
Oh yeah.
Wherever. Like it finds a way to get up. Like they are so sure-footed. That's why you don't see mules stumbling and tripping.
No, yeah.
Horses,
no. That's why you see line guys. Yeah. Or a lot of them are mule guys because they got, you've lion hunted. You gotta go, and you gotta go. There's no path.
No.
The lion didn't
he's not taking a path.
He didn't take a trail. So you gotta go wherever you gotta go. And the mules, like particularly in that rocky country and stuff, that's like
they find the best way. They figure it out.
Yeah. There's self-preservation. It's like they're good. So there is differences in that regard for sure, man. I'm glad you've done those trips.
I love them. I love doing it that way. I think it's a lot of fun. I love being so far away from things that you feel. You always have that little security with the Garmin, you know, that little SOS button. But still, at the end of the day, like to me, it's like I better be dying. Like I'm going to die if I hit that button. You know what I mean? Like, not like, oh, I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's like serious business.
Yeah.
Dude, I got to ask you this because I have thought about this. This is going like a little woo-woo, but I think we are living in this unique chunk of time, Derek, where we are the last outdoorsmen that have some limited, we have access to limited connectivity. The Garmin is one thing, right? Like we use it to text our wife and, maybe logistical things and that sort of thing. And that's one step to connectivity. But dude, in the next 4 or 5 years, I'm assuming that doesn't matter where you're at, you're gonna be able to open up Instagram. Yeah. You're gonna be on an open up.
Well, you
Facebook.
could take that Starlink Mini.
Yeah.
You can take that anywhere.
Yeah.
And you can have full internet access anywhere.
Dude, which is amazing, but at the same time, it's sad.
It is
because we're the last ones, dude. We're the last ones that when you go out, you're out.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be soon. It's just going to be you'll have LTE or 5G wherever, everywhere. Yeah. Which I'm so shocked that they don't have it yet.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sure they have the capability. They're just not. Yeah. They haven't found a way to make. Profit on it. So it's like.
So they're not, haven't done it.
They're not just going to give it away.
Yeah.
No, nothing's
but dude,
free,
but imagine, man, the next generation of hunters. Their hunting they will never have that lack of connectivity.
Well, that's the whole point of going out there.
Yeah, I know, dude.
Is getting away from all that.
Yeah.
Like putting the phone away and just being away from it. And that's why I love, in reach because I could just, check in on the wife and
Limited.
let her know I'm alive, and
Sure.
it's very limited. You only get a certain amount of text you can send. You can't send a lot of characters. It's like,
Yeah.
you can't have a conversation, but you can do a little check-in, and it's
Right.
nice to
Keep it that way.
keep it that way,
Yep.
But to think that like I could just be getting phone calls
Oh, dear.
while I'm sitting there glassing, and then my phone's just like ringing and I'm like so deep in the wilderness. It's like, man, that's sad to me. Like,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
But it also, in the world we live in today, I mean, it's
incredible.
You can do a lot more from everybody's working remote. So now like maybe it will drive more people to go do outdoorsy
Yeah, in
things.
general. Yeah, I think people will live more remotely too because of that.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a good thing.
I think people are tired of I hate living in the city. Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't, like even that, like suburbia is like my nightmare. Like I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
It's nice when you have kids because you have access to all the
Yeah, of course.
all the things that you need to do and all the fun stuff you got to do, like the urban airs and the places you want to take your toddlers to play.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, man, like I'd rather be on a farm and teaching them how to bale hay and teaching them how to split wood, teaching them how to responsibility on taking care of animals and stuff like that. Like I would rather be doing that, but unfortunately, my wife is not down with that yet. She's close.
Yeah.
She's real close to wanting to get out of here, but
No, I hear you. man.
we're moving in that direction.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when I retired, I was gone all the time with football, and even when I was home, I was not home. I was always thinking about
in the zone,
the game, and so really, she got about 2 weeks of like uninterrupted, just me a year.
Yeah.
And now she's like, as soon as September hit, she's like, what? She's like, what do you mean? What do you mean you have 3 hunts in September? And I'm like, well, there's a mule deer and then 2 elk.
Oh, yeah.
And she's
September's always like that.
yeah, she's like, what happened to just doing like 1 hunt a month? And I'm like, when you get invited, like I'm getting invited to an Indian reservation this year up in Washington.
Sure.
And I was like, I can't turn that.
Yeah, that's the problem.
That might be I might never get that opportunity again, ever. That's like, I got to take that opportunity.
Dude, you're preaching to the choir, man, because I almost never say no. It's a real problem.
It's hard, man. And me being who I am and playing football and stuff, a lot of people are like, hey, come do this, come do that. And it's like, I wish I could say yes to all of them, but I can't. It's just like, I can't do it. I have to be a present father. You know what I mean? I have to be. So So it is tough, and especially with my youngest, she gets like a little bit of separation anxiety.
Oh, I get it.
So she's like, where's that? But she does it just last night, Abby, my wife, took my oldest to dinner and a movie. Yeah. Just to like have like a mommy-daughter date night,
Sure.
Because she's 17 and Roxy's 5, so it's like.
Yeah, I got you.
You can't take the 5-year-old to see Deadpool.
Yeah, it's a spread. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So she wanted to go see Deadpool, so she goes. So of course Roxy the whole time is, well, where's my mom? And I'm like,
sure.
I was like, is this what you're doing to her when I'm gone? Are you doing this to her? And she's like, yeah, so that's what she does. So she knows what she's doing, but it's still, I want to be present. Hey guys, I want to talk to you about one of my favorite sponsors, Juniper Mountain Coffee. Coffee without compromise. You're getting high quality coffee without the high prices. This is an American company that stands behind their values. They stand behind their coffee. These guys make some of the best coffee I've ever had. It's a coffee I drink every morning. Juniper Mountain Coffee works directly with the farmers, paying fair wages, and that way you have no middleman. There's no BS, no garbage. You're getting high quality products. So go check them out at junipermountaincoffee.com. When you decided like, hey, I want to sell my business, and I want to, like, what made you say, this is what I'm doing?
Yeah, so
when you just went all in.
Oh, like what triggered it?
Yeah,
like
what triggered
I'm out.
that?
So there's this dynamic, and if you know many guys in the business, you've probably heard about it, and that's that if you ever want to buy an outfitting business, buy it in November after a guy's been running it, because every year everybody wants to sell their business because they're so seasonal. It's just intense. Oh, sorry, man.
No, you're good.
But so I would have that little jolt of that, but what I figured out, and there was a bunch of different variables that come into play, but in my mind, I thought to myself, you know what? I want to sell this in the next 5, 6, 7 years. And I had a phenomenal crew at the time, and they still run that business, and they've expanded a bunch. They've bought a bunch of other outfitting businesses too. But anyways,
so you sold that to your crew?
Well, so I didn't sell it to my crew, but in my mind, I thought, okay, I got to get out of this just for a bunch of different reasons, including my knees were wrecked from riding a horse and stuff like that. There was like practical reasons, some personal reasons that I wanted to sell it, but I thought it was going to take me 5 or 6 years because I mean, I had like 75, 80 horses and mules. You got to find like a crazy guy, you know what I mean, to do it. And that, they got to tend to have a little bit of a background or they got to be motivated to run a business like that. It's not, it's not like a pizza shop.
That's a full-time job.
Yeah. And it's unique. So I figured it'd take me 5 or 6 years to sell it. I had this piece of property with it, it was a little bit convoluted. And and part of the reason was I had that good crew, and I thought, man, if I don't get it sold in 3 or 4 years, I'll sell it to my crew because they can do it, and that's one of the problems with the outfitting business is you don't ever want to sell it to an employee or something and then it comes back to you. You know what I mean? So anyways, that's just like the nitty gritty of the business. And so I had this game plan. I was like, I'm going to start working on it. And it was under contract in like 2 weeks before it ever hit the market. And I don't think people are like, you sold it for too little. I don't think it had anything to do with that. I think it had to do just with like fate a little bit. You know what I mean? Timing, the right guy with the right interest who happened to be looking at that time. Yeah. And I happened to talk to people who knew him. Right. And so whatever, it was done. And then I ran it for 1 season for him, kind of trailed it off, and I was,
like consulting for
yeah,
him, basically.
pretty much. Well, I mean, yeah, I did, but I the way it closed is I had all the hunters booked and stuff, so I was kind of like ran it through that season just because it made sense. You don't want to change it up on a bunch of people that were doing the elk hunt of a lifetime or whatever.
It's the right thing to do.
Yeah. So it made sense for everybody, so I did that.
Because you were hunting out of units that are hard to draw, right?
Yeah, no, they were most. I had both, but most of my stuff was easy to draw.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of over-the-counter stuff.
Oh, okay.
That sort of stuff. But some a little bit of draw stuff. So there was some planning involved and that sort of thing. But obviously all the sheep and goat stuff.
That's a once in a lifetime
draw. Yeah. So I mean, there's guys that I guided after the fact on those hunts just because I felt committed to them. Even after I didn't own the business, I worked for my old business guiding guys. I worked for other guys guiding guys because they were clients. Yeah. That like I guided them on a goat hunt, and we talked about it when I was on the goat hunt. I helped them on applying for sheep, so I was gonna go do those sheep hunts, even if they made no economic sense or whatever. Yeah. Fly out here and do it for them. Or guide with them because they're it's weird. Outfitting and guiding is really weird, Derek. You've probably realized this, I bet. Just knowing you at the level that I do, guides, their best friends tend to be clients. Yeah. Like they tend to be guys that they've hunted with a lot. And it's a very interesting relationship that way, that a bunch of my best friends as an adult guy were developed in that relationship.
Well, it's such I don't want to say the wrong thing, but it's an intimate
of course.
thing. To be, and I don't want to sound intimate, like not romantically, but like intimately, like you get to know a guy, you know what I mean? Like you get to know each other. You have it would be awkward and weird if you didn't have conversations.
Oh yeah.
When you're spending hours behind glass.
Yeah, you're in like or they're in a backpack tent next to you and you're in some rainstorm for 5 days. Like,
you're gonna get to know
guys real well.
Yeah. Man. And then just like when you get back to camp and having conversations, like that's how it goes. It's funny because now that since I started like filming my hunts, the guys that run camera for me, those are like my best buddies. Friends. Yeah. Because, and they keep it, and I think they appreciate me because I don't try to tell them how to do their job.
Yeah, they keep their creative.
I'm like, dude. Yeah. He's like, well, what do you want to do on this? I'm like, I don't. Yeah. Do your thing, dude. And he's like, all right. And then we get in our arguments and stuff just like brothers would do. Sure. And it's usually over something stupid because none of us have slept in 3 days. So right. It's like I'll give you an example. Last year we were in Montana hunting deer, whitetail, up off the Milk River, and it was like end of November, so we're just cracking horns trying to get them to come up out of these river bottoms and show themselves, and they were. Yeah, but we drove all the way up there, didn't sleep, and then started hunting right away. And both of us were like hungry and tired and pissy,
a little short,
and being short with each other. And it'd been a tough hunting season already. Last year was a tough season, just all around. Elk weren't cooperating at all. Deer weren't cooperating, and it was just tough. So he was like, I finally get a buck to pop up, and I'm looking through my binos, and he's like, "What is it?" And I was like, I just ignored him for a minute. I was just like still trying to see me. I was like, "Oh, there he is." And he goes, "Derek, what is it?" I was like, "It's a fucking buck. What do you think it is?" And he gets so fucking mad. He's like this little redhead dude from Oklahoma, and he's country as hell. And he's just, his name's Levi Mayfield, one of the greatest people I've ever met, honestly.
Sure.
And he just starts screaming at me. He's like, "Well, fuck you then." He's like, "I guess we're not making a fucking film." And I just started, I started laughing. I was like, "I'm sorry, dude. I didn't." I was like, You're right. You know.
Oh yeah.
He's like, "All right, can we get back to fucking hunting now? Like, what the fuck?" You know?
Yeah, but that's like friendship stuff.
Yeah.
Man. You know what I mean?
And that's where, like, you know, I bet, you know, with clients too, they're trusting you with like putting them in the right position and making sure they don't die.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
Like, there's a lot of trust built there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's all of that, but then there's also like this hilarity of the relationship that's analogous to exactly what you talked about. You know, it's like, okay, we're up in these rocks at 13.5 or something. We got this dead goat. We're in the dark. I've skinned it, caped it, quartered it up. And then it's like, oh, how are we going to get out of here? It's like, brother, you're taking half this fucking goat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I can't, like, you know, unless you want to come back tomorrow when you're supposed to be at work, you're taking half this goat.
Yeah.
And it's like, and most clients are cool, man. Like, they get it. But there is this realization of like, oh yeah, like this is guided, but dude, we're still hunting, and this is like wild stuff, you know?
Well, that's why I think hunting, you know, backcountry hunting is like the ultimate equalizer, because you know, the mountain doesn't give a shit how much money you got.
Nah.
It doesn't care how rich you are, doesn't care how much money you have. So it's yeah, man, I love it. It's the great equalizer. It makes everybody's on the same level.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's on the same level when it comes to that shit, you know? And if you haven't been out there in the mountains, then you're not going to be ready for them. Like, that's just the way it goes. Like, yeah, you know, I'm sure you dealt with guys that just like didn't really work out, didn't train, didn't like, you know, get themselves in shape. Then they get out there and they get their ass kicked. And
and the thing is like, you deal with that. Everybody's got a different life, but all that really matters is how they deal with it. If they laugh about it and realize the situation is what it is, it's awesome. Yeah. If not, you know, I mean, I've dealt with guys that the fact that they weren't prepared for whatever reason they felt was my problem. It's not my problem, but that's the rare guy in the hunting world. Yeah. You know, 19 out of 20 folks you outfit are like, I showed up way too fat for this. Yeah. You know what I mean? And they know it's gonna suck. It. Yeah. You know, even if they didn't realize how much of an adventure it was, once they realize it, they're very positive about like, okay, I get what this is. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's unique that way because it's a challenge. Well, that leads me to the next thing I want to talk about, because I always love talking to guides and asking them like, give me your, like, the worst situation you've ever been in with a client. Worst situation I've ever been in? Obviously, you don't have to give names or anything, just like the worst client you've ever dealt with, like the horror stories, you know? Dude, that day you were like, you know what? This sucks. I'm not doing it anymore. Like, yeah. Dude, I've got a good story, and you know, it actually turned out great. And in the end, I'll start with the ending. The guy in the end, like weeks later, you know, he messaged me. He's like, Cliff, I just went. You know, he was just like, it was an awesome hunt. I know I was a shithead. You know what I mean? Like, and he had some extenuating circumstances why it was. So it was all good. But at the time, I couldn't believe it because it was a hunt where a bunch of uncontrollable stuff happened. It was a guided elk hunt. Took the guys in. Father, he brought his 2 sons, adult sons. They were like in their 40s probably. Good guys, but for sure, the father had always wanted to do a wilderness horseback hunt, and he was forcing those kids to come along. They were hunters, but this was not like in their deal. Yeah. Not prepped or whatever, but they were going to do it for dad because this was like his dream. He was probably like in his mid-60s or maybe even older than that. But we get in there, and then the craziest thing, so they killed one smaller bull, and then they killed what was probably the biggest bull we ever killed in the flat tops, probably like something like 355, 360, something like that. You know, an over-the-counter unit. But the bull had a broken beam. Had a broken, one side was broken off, and up fairly high, but it's a huge bull, like great, awesome, right? And anyways, he got I wasn't with him when they went to go pack the bull out, but he got in a fight with one of my guides about packing the hide out. And it was in like a really chitty spot. You know what I mean? And he wanted, the way I understand it is he wanted to come out, like they wanted to come out with the bull, and then they wanted to get off the mountain like that day. And the guide was like, dude, I can't pack a whole hide out of a bull unless you guys are going to pack some. So big deal. They got back to camp. He was pissed because the hide hadn't come out. I was like, well, we can get it, whatever.
Why didn't he carry it then?
Well, he's too big for him. I mean, he couldn't.
Oh,
Yeah. They couldn't do it. They wanted the guides to do it. The guides were like, we can't do it. We got meat. We got everything else. This is like a 2-day deal if you want the hide, given where it's at. So this went down as like, well, we can't control that. So he was pissed about that. And then the next day we had a wildfire underneath the camp. And so it was crazy because I went up, Derek, and the fire was moving up the mountain. So the fire started when I was in camp, packing the gear out, and we were packing them out of the camp. And so I vividly remember being in the camp. The camp's at like 10,000 feet, and there's snowy mud in the camp. And one of my guides who had left early, he goes down. He was, when I rolled into camp, they're like, hey, can we go out early? We'll hike. We don't need to ride. And I told my guides, like, yeah, dude, I got it. We'll get the bull and the hunters out and everything else. And anyway, so my guides started just hiking out of there. It's like 4 or 5 mile hike, but it's downhill. And one of them comes back in there as I have the bull's head on the top of a mule. And one of my guides comes up the mountain like 30, 40 minutes later, and he's like so exhausted he can't talk. And he starts like spewing, like he's almost like nonverbal, but I make out fire. And I'm like, I don't know what he's talking about because I'm standing in snow. There's no fucking way there's a fire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no way. And so
what time of year is this?
It's like October during
yeah.
first rifle season.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a big sagebrush, oak brush bull goes up into this, aspen conifer transition stuff where the camp was. Anyway, so I'm like, I got to see what he's talking about. And I walk out over the trail we came in on, and there's just like, I swear the flames were 100 foot tall already, like rolling up the mountain. And so I like got back into camp, and I was like, guys, like we're getting out of here now because that was the trail in, and I knew I had to go out like other direction. So we had to go up and down and around to get out. So I got all the hunters in. Dude, while we're getting the hunter, like I literally grabbed the bull and I just threw it on the ground. I had like half the meat packed. I threw it on the ground, like all the shit that was in panniers, all the hunter's gear. I was like, dude, because by then, like I could, like visibility is like 15 feet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this hunter is like, well, we got to get our gear out. I'm like, brother, we ain't getting your fucking gear out. Like we have to
get
survive.
your life out of here.
Yeah. And so literally
survive.
he's trying to have an argument with me at this point about it, which if like, I feel like I'm a pretty like even kill guy, but I was like, we're not having this argument, dude.
Yeah.
So anyways, we get him on, we ride out of there, go out, do a 3-hour detour. And then we're coming underneath where the fire was. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't see the smoke. You know what I mean? I wonder if it got, if it went out or something. And I thought to myself, maybe I'll go up there and try to get his gear. You know what I mean? Maybe I can get back in there. And I remember me and another guy, we go up these switchbacks, and literally there's like a little bench right there. We roll up on this bench, and a helicopter is right there, like at eye level with a, like just had dumped a bucket. And I can see the pilot, and I can like, I swear I'm not making this up, dude. I can see the guy's look, and the guy's look is like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, what are you, like, get out of here. You know what I mean? He's probably like about 150 yards from me. So I turn around, like the gear's not coming out. And that guy, so they were stuck at our place for a couple days, and it was just like a bitch fest the whole time about getting the gear out. It's like, I can't get the gear out, So it's just an example.
He's lucky to be alive.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a traumatic thing. And then honestly, the hardest part about the whole deal, not the fire deal, like stuff happens. I can understand somebody being upset in the moment. All of that being said, the thing that I guess I took most personal about the whole deal, Derek, is he was upset about the bull having a broken beam. And it made me kind of snap on him. Probably the only time I ever snapped in the business. Because I'm like, dude, who cares? you could pay $200 or whatever it is and get a new beam. You know what I mean? So
yeah, the taxidermist can fix that.
Yeah. Who cares? Yeah. No big deal. Like, it's a glorious over-the-counter bull elk, and you have let's be honest.
So did he break the beam after he got killed?
No, it was broke.
Oh, it was already broke from fighting?
It. Yeah. Broke when they killed it. But anyways, that's one of those stories, I guess, like, depicts a situation where it was like the worst client.
Yeah, all that other stuff, all the other shit, like the gear and all this stuff, that's whatever.
Yeah, and people can get frustrated in the moment. Like, can I get my stuff? But to be
pissed off about a fucking broken beam on a bowl, like, come on, dude. Like, it's funny because I have a buddy, he was telling me it's very similar to that. And he was like, I got to kill a bull that's, 100, I got to kill a deer. It was a mule deer. He's like, I got to kill a mule deer that's over 186 inches or something like that.
Yeah, some target thing.
He's like, why? He's like, okay, well, I mean, we'll try. I'm not going to guarantee.
That's all you can do.
All you can do is try. I'll try to find you a big deer. And if you want to shoot him, you could shoot him, And he's just like, all right. He's like, what do you think that, he finds one. He's like, that's like 100, that's at least 185-inch deer, probably pushing 190. He's somewhere in there. And he goes, all right, should I shoot him? And he's like, I mean, it's up to you, man. Like,
yeah, sure.
So he shoots the deer, shoots it with a rifle. They get up to it, and immediately the guy is like, where's the tape? Asking for tape so he can measure this deer. I'm like, dude, I'm thinking, like, really? He's going to pull the tape out before he even, like, puts his hands on the deer? Like, he's just going to.
That's the only
thing. And he
thing
says he tapes it out, and it was 180. He needed 187.
Yeah.
And I guess it was because he had a bet with his buddy.
Okay.
And his buddy had killed like a 187. So he had to beat that 187. That deer measured 186 and 5/8 or something like that.
Yeah.
And he
ruined it for him.
And he said the guy like got fucking pissed and started stomping around and was like, I don't even want that fucking deer, and like just tried to leave.
How odd, huh?
It's just like you're doing it all for the wrong reasons, man. Like that's
It's weird, Derek. I don't know how you feel, because I don't really pass judgment on guys like that. Like, I mean, I've guided sheep hunters where, like, while I'm caping the ram, they're on the phone to change their flight to get out of a beautiful place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so to me, I almost feel bad for them.
Yeah.
I don't really pass judgment of like, this guy's a piece of shit. It's more like, what is going on in this guy's priorities where this is primary importance and he can't enjoy the whole. I mean, dude, like my story, think about that story if you had a positive attitude about it.
Yeah.
Like, that's the best story ever.
He would have been that story that I killed this giant bull.
Yeah. Then
and we almost
wildfire.
got killed by a fire. Yeah. Like we had to leave our gear. That's a great story, but instead he bitched and moaned the whole time.
Yeah.
And I bet he was bitching and moaning because his kids were probably fucking miserable too.
Yeah, could have been. It could have been like a
Those
dynamic.
guys were probably bitching and moaning, and he was probably like this ungrateful little fucker. You know?
Well, the funniest thing, dude, not to like bounce around stories, but as I was loading the bull up for him, one of the sons was like, "Yep, Dad, this was great father-son time." Like,
super sarcastic. Yeah.
And I was like at the point of like, I for sure overtly laughed. Like, wow, guys.
That's great. You talk about guys wanting to leave early. My first elk hunt, my first like real elk hunt, right when I retired, I took a friend with me from Ohio, and my wife was like, I don't think you should do that. And I was like, why? It's going to be fun. It's going to be great. She's like, cause he's going to, you know how it goes. She's like, guys, she knows how I am, and that I'm not like, I have like that, the drive, and I like won't quit, and I'll just keep going and going. And I don't, even when I'm like, to me, like fatigue can make cowards of us all, but like, I don't let it. You just tell that inner bitch to shut up,
Yeah, sure.
And he kills a bull on this. Well, the first day he gets lost. So we spent the whole day trying to find him because he didn't follow us. He just sat down and just let us keep going. And then we couldn't find him.
Yeah.
So we were going like in reach. He didn't know how to go in reach to in reach. So we're going. So my wife is communicating with me via him.
Yeah.
Through his in reach to her. Then she's telling me, and she's like, why would you leave Brent? Whatever. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Where is he? I thought he was right here.
Sure.
So then we get through that day. Then the next day, we go out there, and he's like, I didn't come out here to just hunt by myself, this and that. And I was like, fine, you go with the guide.
Sure.
I'll go kill a bull.
Yeah.
And we called bulls in, and it was awesome. You know, we had a great time. And my Levi was just calling bulls with a mouth call.
Yeah.
No tube or nothing. We're just calling. There's bulls everywhere. It's New Mexico. Like they're everywhere, you know?
Yeah.
And
isn't that funny when it's on?
oh, it's you just make the one little sound. Here comes a bull jumping up, right up over the ridge. Like they come right to you.
Yeah.
You know, then there's just days where you can't get nothing. Nothing will talk back to you. You'll get one bugle in the morning, and then you won't hear anything the rest of the day. You know, I've had those experiences too.
Yeah.
But you know, the third day comes, and same kind of situation. He just decides, all right, I'm going to go with the guide, and you know, Levi and I there's one herd bull that I was trying to kill. I hunted him for 2 days now.
Yeah.
Satellite bulls kept screwing it up.
Yeah.
Well, he walks out into a meadow, and this bull's standing there at like 100 yards. He sends an arrow over its back.
Yeah.
And it runs to 30, stands broadside, and he shoots it, right? And this whole time I'm like looking for the bull that I'm trying to kill.
Yeah.
And you know, he calls, I just killed a bull. He's like losing his mind, and I'm like, oh sweet, you know. And I get over there, and we go and we find the bull. We were like 5 miles from the truck, and it was like really hot, and it was all rocks.
Sure.
Just, you know how rocky it is down there.
Yeah.
So it was just a lot of work. But we had 5 guys to pack this bull out. So we could do it. So we did it. And I told him before we went on this trip, I said, don't bring that shitty pack with you.
Yeah.
Like he had this suede pack, like it was suede. I was like, that pack.
So he couldn't pack any meat.
So he didn't have any meat, just the cape and the skull.
Yeah.
Which is like, I don't know, maybe 40 pounds, right?
Something.
It was like a 330 bull. So like probably like 40, 50 pounds.
Yeah, probably about right.
I mean, like he couldn't get off the ground hardly. Yeah. And I was like, dude, it's all because that pack sucks. And I try to tell you. Yeah. He's like, well, it says Team Elk on. I'm like, yeah, whatever, dude. It's not a good elk. It's not a good pack.
Yeah, sure.
So we get him packed up and send him on his. We're like, just go to the truck, dude. And we're like, we'll see you. And then we had like a 60 or 65-year-old dude with us, so we like gave him like 30 pounds. You know, we didn't want to like load him up, and I took like 140 pounds. Like just, of course, I got all the neck meat, the hindquarters, both hindquarters, and all the neck meat.
The short end.
So I had like 120 pounds probably.
Brutal.
You know? It was brutal, and plus all the water, all my water and stuff. And so it was a heavy pack, and my feet got wrecked on the way out of there because it was like all this
pushing
my toes in, and it was just rubbing on the top of my foot. Where it wouldn't usually happen.
Weight changes the dynamic.
So there's 2 days now that I've wasted on him, right? We get back. First of all, on the way out, I pass him, and he looks like he's on death's doorknob. Like he is like pale white.
It's rough.
He's like pale white and then like beet red at the same. It was weird. Like I was like, dude, don't stop. I said, do not stop. I said, keep walking. He's like, I just want to sit down for a little bit. And he's like in shape guy, you know?
Yeah, sure.
But that packing weight like that is
you'll never get started again.
And I was like, don't sit down, just keep going, dude.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not stopping. I don't even want to like turn to look at you because I gotta keep my head down and keep going.
Right.
No trekking poles because I thought those were for pussies, but I
you
realized
get over
real
that?
quick that I'm, you know, there's a reason why animals walk around on 4 legs.
Yeah.
So I finally get to the truck, and Levi, my camera guy, he had like the same amount of weight as I did, and he'd still just like
he was there.
Yeah, he could pack like an animal, you know, and then go drink a beer and come back and try to get yours. So he gets there, he gets to the truck, and I get there, and he goes, I'm gonna go back and help Robert. You know, he's the older guy, and he's like, I'm gonna go help him take some of that weight off of him. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna sit here and pound some Gatorade real quick, and I'll come meet you if you don't come in like the next 10 minutes. Well, he goes, and here comes Robert, and Robert's got all his stuff on still. And I'm like, what happened? I thought Levi was coming to get your pack. He goes, no, I told him to get Brent's stuff. And I was like, why? He's like, he's not doing good. And then I see Levi coming, and he's got his whole pack on. He's got my buddy's whole pack on.
His whole stuff, yeah.
And he gets up there, and he's like, yeah, dude, he's not doing good. And finally he comes and gets up there, and he goes, that was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And I was like, dude, that sucked, but it's like, come on, man. You know, like you never like had a rough day, like baling hay. Like, come on. Like we grew up in like a farm town. So
sure.
But he just wasn't built like that, you know? And then, I still had 2 more days of the hunt left. Right. And he decides, he's like, hey man, I'm probably just going to leave. And I'm like,
oh yeah.
Oh really? You're going to leave after you wasted 2 days? I packed your bull out, and now you're going to leave. Yeah. And he was like, oh, I got to get back to work and this. I'm like, dude, you took work off. Like, don't lie.
You're breaking the code right now.
So
man.
I told him, I said, if you leave, I'll never hunt with you again.
Yeah.
I said, I'll never hunt with you again. And he was like, all right. So he decides he's going to leave the next day.
Yeah.
Right. And we get rained on and get dumped on and it ruins another day. But finally, the 5th day, we killed the bull.
Yeah.
And he ended up spending 2 days at the airport because the flights kept getting delayed. So he could have been there hunting with us and having a good time.
Yeah.
And instead he spent it at the airport. And I was like, man, I feel bad for you that you would like give up that opportunity to be in this country. And it's like these tags are so hard to get, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like why would you just leave? So
Man.
it is sad to see guys. It's a long story, but that's how, you know, you got to be careful who you hunt with. You know?
Oh yeah.
You
Dude,
do.
it's
You gotta be
giant. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I did. Didn't I say she told me you probably shouldn't do it? Yeah. So not only did he kill my bull, the bull that I was trying to kill, which I don't care, whatever.
Yeah.
That wasn't like important to me. That he kills the bull that I'm hunting, and then he ends up leaving.
Yeah.
Couldn't pack his own meat and doesn't help us pack. So when I kill my bull, there's only 3 of us to pack him out.
Yeah.
But we got it done, and it was awesome. But it was to me, that I'll never forget that hunt because it was so much up and downs in that hunt, and that was like my first real like, wall tent, sleeping in the wall tent, day hunting. Oh yeah.
Oh, you're talking about my membership group? Yeah. So what this is I have what I have done with my YouTube channel, I got it, like I said, I was just doing it kind of for fun and to support my business. And I was just doing a lot of how-to elk stuff. And I started to realize I had this enormous group of guys, not enormous, but these guys that were a decent group of guys that were in the comments on every video, like helping each other out. So that's primarily why I made this membership group. There's a free part of it and there's a paid part of it. Dude, this sounds dorky, Derek, but I do a live stream with these guys every week. Guys that are just getting into elk hunting and getting into Western hunting. Dude, if you asked me 3 years ago if that's something I would do, I'd be like, no, dude. My dad calls it OnlyFans for hunters. But, dude, this shit is so fun because it's a bunch of guys that are super enthusiastic. And they're not all young guys. I got guys on there that are 65 years old and they're going on their first elk hunt. And so we just talk about their plans. We talk about all this stuff. And it's actually a good spot to talk about it because one of the biggest things, man, is this whole quitting thing. Yeah. Quitting, it's like people ask me, particularly on the type of hunting you're talking about, like this, this mountain stuff, this wilderness stuff. If you want to just statistically improve your odds of success, not like you plan to go 7 days, just go 7 days.
Yeah.
Like that is like just the fact of in your mind committing that it does. Obviously there's like family emergencies and stuff like that. That's not what I'm talking about. But if you just stick to the plan and you don't let yourself manifest excuses, that's way more important than $10,000 worth of gear.
Yep.
Any of that stuff. It's literally just not quitting. So we talk a lot about that. And then guys will go on a hunt and they'll come back and they'll be like, Cliff, dude, I know we talked about it, but I only made like 5.5 days. Cause it's just like, it's like their first elk hunt or whatever. Yeah. So it's fun. It's fun to go over.
It's hard. This shit's hard. Yeah. It's not easy.
It's hard. And the dynamic between hunting partners, man, is gigantic.
It is huge.
And I don't.
Well, that's what's great is you're creating a community with.
Yeah.
This,
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, there's guys that might be from different parts of the country.
Yeah, and they connect on it.
They connect there, and then like, hey, let's go on a hunt together. And they might end up coming out loving each other, or they might hate each other.
Yeah, for sure. Dude, the thing about hunting is you can go on a hunt with a guy who has been your best friend for 15 years, and it's like a different thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's funny, it's so funny that your wife chimed in because I kind of feel like it's like, your wife knows your personality, knows how you are. The analogy is like if you're a young guy and your brother tells you like, hey, that girl that you're hanging out with, like you probably shouldn't marry her. You should you should probably like consider what your brother's saying. Yeah. It's the exact same dynamic. Your wife knows like, hey, I know that buddy and he's not going to be a good elk hunting buddy because she sees it from a different angle. You know what I mean? You're just thinking, I want a buddy to go with. And that's like the biggest challenge that guys have in this space. They end up pulling in people to go on these hunts just because they want to have a group. They want guys to drive with. And it's like, dude, that's the wrong reason. Like, you got to have the right guy. And then once you do get the right guy, like, you went out there, you got through the 8-day shitty weather hunt. That guy is like, he's like a lifelong, like, different type of friend.
You're right.
Like, I had clients, Derek, that would come back every year, and it's like, you watch them and you're like, oh, these guys are like a married couple, because they realize that if Tom's not here, I'm not going, because I don't have, once he quits physically, like, he can't continue to elk hunt, my elk hunting's over too, because I can't recreate that buddy.
Yeah.
I can't find another guy like that. It took me 5-6 years to find the guy. You know what I mean? And you'll hear crazy shit, man. You'll hear guys, I'll talk to guys and they're like, yeah, I'm just not elk hunting anymore because Jim can't go anymore. He got a divorce, or some domestic situation happened in their buddy's life, has nothing to do with them, and their hunting career's over because of it.
Yeah.
Because the relationship with that hunting buddy or a couple hunting buddies is so relevant to the whole dynamic. It's really wild. Like, my advice to like a young guy trying to get into this, or whatever, it doesn't matter, young guy or not, a guy that wants longevity and like mountain western hunting or whatever, it's like, man, find a couple like good buddies to do it with, and then don't quit.
And
And they're kind of related.
And it's tough though, because there's like a balance you have to find with this stuff. Especially I have to find balance all the time, because I hyper focus.
You're pretty extreme. Yeah.
I'm extreme. I hyper focus. Like, I'm like all in. When I'm doing something, I'm all in.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, my wife and kids pay the price for that, because I end up forgetting that I have to like still date my wife. I still have to I still have to like take her on dates and set up plans and stuff like that. And she's like, I shouldn't have to fucking remind you. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. Like, I get so locked in on it that I can't. It's not that I'm not thinking about you. It's that I'm only thinking about this. And that's not healthy either. So you have to find that balance. So when you're talking about giving advice to people that are looking to get into this, I would say, try everything that you can when it comes to like which animals you like to pursue. Try them all.
Yeah.
But pick like one or two that you really like to do.
Sure.
And just like do those ones every year, Like, for like, I think the reason, like, especially in Colorado, if you're a Colorado guy, you could do over-the-counter elk and you can do antelope every year. Yeah. Those are two things you could do every year. All right, guys, I want to talk to you about a product that I've been using for a long time, over a decade. When I was playing football, one of my main staples in my diet was bison. I got my bison from Great Range Premium Bison. They make some of the finest cuts of bison you can get. These guys have ribeyes, ground beef, all the steaks that you want. My favorite part about Great Range is that you don't have to worry about antibiotics or growth hormones in their meats. Great Range Premium Bison is a family-owned company providing bison meat from family-owned ranches around the country. So please go check out greatrangebison.com. Since we're talking about people getting into hunting, they're trying to take all these rights away from us here in Colorado right now. Governor Polis has a very anti-extremist husband. Yeah. Who hates hunters, hates everything about it, and wants to end it. So what is your take on that? What do you think that their main goal is there? Because it's not just the hunting that they're trying to get rid of. Yeah, man. So I have to admit that this is developed over, like, or my opinion on it has developed over my lifetime, right? I've always been of the mindset, and I think maybe this is like me trying to find the positivity in most people. I've always been of the mindset that anything anti-hunting, anything that, even if it didn't affect the specific type of hunting that I was doing, it came from a good place. Like, hey, look, like let's specifically talk about the lion deal, right? This isn't the first state that lion hunting has been on the chopping block, right? It comes up every once in a while in other states too. Years ago, it was banned in California. I vividly remember when they banned hound hunting for bears in California. I remember that. I knew people who were affected by it. But even at that time, Derek, I in my mind, I thought the reason that people want to ban this is that they do feel that it's brutal, or they do feel like it's unnecessary, or they have a compassion for that animal. They have a compassion for bears. They have a compassion for lions.
And it came from, a good place, a misinformed place, but still, like, they're not bad people. They don't have bad intentions. Unfortunately, my view on it has migrated drastically, man. I saw it particularly the last, like, decade in Colorado. You start to realize that things accumulate to the point where there's so much good, like, data out there and rationality for, like, specifically the lion hunting. It makes no sense to ban it. If you use the analogy of California and you really look at the numbers, the conflict with people, the lions are still getting killed there. If you look at that from a rational perspective, any rational human, even if they have compassion for lions, they're going to be like, well, they're going to get killed anyways. They're going to get managed anyways. They're going to be like, okay, doesn't make sense to ban it. So I get to the point on these sort of things where I'm like, it's not about that. It's not about you guys having compassion for lions. It's about you not liking certain people's lifestyle and the culture of certain people. You know what I mean? I think in Colorado, and it's even when I say it out loud, Derek, it's hard for me to say it because 5 years ago I would have been like, nah, dude, there's not this conspiracy against Western rural Colorado. Now there is.
Oh yeah.
There is for sure, because when I look at it, when I try to just step back and look at it, I don't live here anymore. I'm not directly affected by this. I do love lion hunting. I'm sure, I'll continue to lion hunt, but, so that part affects me directly. But even if it didn't, I can abstract myself from it and look at it and be like, that's not what it's about. It's about that you guys hate the idea that rural people are doing this.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's how it is. And when you really look, I one thing I've done, and I've had to push to do it, Derek, is I've gone into social media and followed, like, some of the very pro wolf people, and it's really interesting to watch their rhetoric, because their rhetoric is not filtered. It's not filtered through a big, organized, lawyered up anti-hunting movement. So they say what the real story is. So you'll go on, you'll have some, you'll go on their Instagram and they'll be talking about breaking down the funding mechanism of wildlife management. And it's like, yes, this is the true colors, right?
Yeah.
The wolf thing is about breaking down the funding mechanism of Colorado wildlife.
Which to explain that to people, and tell me if I'm wrong, that is, the wolves will kill the ungulants. If there's no ungulants to hunt, then there's no hunters.
It's anti-hunting.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
So they'd rather the wolves just decimate an entire herd of elk.
Yeah, exactly.
80% decimation.
Yeah, for the sole reason, for a huge proportion of that is just so they have a reason for the not to be hunting of elk. Because the thing is even that, you can look at it rationally, and these guys, the guys that have been collaring wolves, following wolves, that are in the pro-wolf crowd, they know that there's going to be no wolf tourism in Colorado. That is bullshit. No way. They're hard to find. They stay away from people.
They're the smartest.
Yeah.
You're never going to see them.
No, exactly.
You're not going to see them.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like,
unless you find a dead carcass somewhere.
Yeah, even the pro-wolf guys know that that's not part of it. You know what I mean? Because they around them. They know that.
That's how they got it passed. Because they went around to people that just live in downtown Denver and Fort Collins and Boulder, and they're like, hey, do you like wolves? Yeah. Do you want to see wolves in Colorado? Yeah.
Exactly.
You're never going to see one, but they are going to eat everything.
Yeah, it's a total lie. But
they're going to make it miserable for ranchers to,
yeah.
It's going to suck for everybody involved.
Everywhere they put them is somebody else's pain in the ass. You know what I mean?
But if you've ever sat in any, I'm sure you have, but if you've ever sat in any of these, like, commission meetings.
Sure.
There is some shit going on in there that, these are not elected officials.
Right.
These are appointed by a radical governor anyways. Right. So you have one or two maybe on there that are like pro hunters, but
sure,
all their qualifications it doesn't make any sense. We were in there fighting for over the counter elk tags to remain for, limit the out of state over the counter elk archery tags. That's what we want to do, and limit those. Not get rid of them, just limit them. Put it on a quota. Like once that quota is met, that way, as an in-stater, you have better odds of killing an elk, and being able to provide food for your family and everything. And
sure.
They said that, instead, it was like, I felt like a child being treated the way they treated us. They were like, okay, fine. We're just going to get rid of all over-the-counter elk tags.
Yeah, like if you're going to argue for that, we're going to do this.
And we were like, what? And they're like, you can literally, if you could charge a little bit more money on each of those tags, and residents will pay that to have a better opportunity to hunt.
Right.
And then they were like, well, we're not going to touch the rifle over-the-counter tags.
Yeah.
And our argument was that if you don't touch the rifle over-the-counter tags as well, then everybody's going to just be hunting over-the-counter rifle, and it's going to get dangerous out there.
Yeah, sure.
It's going to be very dangerous because we're not just shooting arrows now. Now you got people trying to shoot 1,000 yards across canyons at people, and it's just too many people.
Yeah.
And their argument was that if you're a bow hunter, you're not going to pick up a rifle.
Yeah, like they don't feel like there's going to be substitution.
Yeah, and that's just ridiculous to think.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
There are some guys that, if I can't bow hunt, I'm not going to hunt. There are guys that are like that, right? But for most guys that are into Western hunting,
they're going to go hunting.
They're going to go hunting, right?
Yeah,
like,
particularly in the state that they're a resident.
Exactly. What opportunity is there, right?
Yeah.
I never rifle hunted, but I started rifle hunting now because there's opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm into it. What would you say, like through the years of guiding, just in your guiding, what is the most like fulfilling thing that you've done? Because you're talking about, the YouTube channel and the community that you've created. So what is the most? I know it's a tough question because there's probably a lot of things, but what is the most fulfilling career thing that you've done?
Yeah, dude. So I'm gonna answer it two ways. Is that cool?
Yeah.
So probably, man, the business that I built, the logistical part of the business that nobody ever saw, not the dead elk, not the big dead mule deer, all the goat, sheep, all that part that has no exposure, I'm very proud of. Like I took something that, was servicing like 3 or 4 hunters at the time, to hundreds of guys, you know what I mean? And then I expanded that to different areas to do the sheep and goat. I had I used to go up to British Columbia for 5 or 6 weeks every spring and do, dozens of bear hunts up there. Like I built a machine, and it doesn't even matter that it's hunting. It was just like my entrepreneurial endeavor that I took on, and I felt like it was a success. Back to originally when we talked about, I think one of the reasons that I sold it was I couldn't grow it anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a bunch of just reasons why that is, but it was constrained. I basically felt like I had it maxed out. So that is for sure like, and it doesn't nothing to do with hunting. It's more just an entrepreneurial thing.
Yeah.
And I found like even now as like kind of reinvent myself, there's a part of me that just likes that, man. You know what I mean? Just likes building. Yeah, building something new and then like seeing it turn into something that's cool. That's probably the biggest one. As it relates to hunting, and this is gonna make me sound asinine, but I'm just gonna do it anyways. Something about because of the size of my business and the varied type of clientele I had, I was exposed to a huge data set on specific species that, and I was cognizant of it during the time that I built up a knowledge base that's I couldn't have got any other way, Derek.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I couldn't. The reps, like the only comparable thing for the knowledge base that I built up around just the nitty gritty of killing elk, particularly heavily pressured stuff. It's almost like a market hunter back in the day. They would have had that. You know what I mean? Like, for all the bad things.
The long hunters
yeah,
back in the day,
dude, for all the bad connotation of like the buffalo, the buffalo market hunters or whatever, and that's all warranted. Like it wasn't a good thing. But I think if you got into the mentality of those guys and how much they perfected something that they were really good at, I mean, I bet those guys had an ability to kill buffalo like nobody else. They had to find the last one, man. You know what I mean? They had to find after years of hunting. And so that's more of like a personal goal. To me, it doesn't matter if anybody ever acknowledges that. It doesn't matter. To me, I know that I built that up over time there. And it wasn't all about my time guiding. I think a lot of it was built up by watching the guides that worked for me and figuring out like, man, I know why this guy kills shit all the time. At first it's an enigma, and then you figure that out because you see a huge dispersion in people, guides, hunters. You see guys that are highly dude, guys bring up Colorado harvest statistics to me. Like, that shit doesn't matter at all. One, I don't think they're all that accurate.
Their percentage odds in certain areas.
Yeah, but it's like, dude, you don't understand. If the unit is 15%,
that's huge.
Yeah, like that's high. But the thing is that like that average tells you nothing.
No.
Because there's guys in there that kill one every year, and there's guys in there that are hopeless.
They're hopeless. They've been doing it for 6-7 years, have not even come close. You know, they've ruined hunts for people.
Yeah, sure.
But they never came close.
Sure.
If you were going to give somebody 3 things, right? If there's 3 to 5 things on just one hand, we'll give 5. 5 things that makes a great hunter. What are those 5 things?
Like specifically, let's say specifically this type of elk hunting we're talking about. So the one we already talked about, and that's just longevity on the hunt. They're able to keep just the basic stuff, man, from not quitting, which to me is like when they go hunting, their home life is solid, right? They're not always they don't have some business shit they got to deal with, or they feel like they got to get back to their wife or whatever. They're just hunting, and they're focused on the 7 days or 4 days or 20 days that they'll go elk hunting. The guy almost universally, I'm sure you know Colorado residents are like this. They kill an elk almost every year with their bow in this crazy to hard hunt stuff. That's almost universal. Yeah. Like they go hunting, they're going hunting, and that doesn't mean they're not great dads, great business guys, whatever, but that's hunting time. And they're not going to let it, they don't let it, they don't quit early because of things that they manifest that are related to other parts of their life. So that's a big one. The other one is just a practical thing. They tend to know, if they're do-it-yourself guys, they tend to know areas really well. They don't jump around units a ton. Like they'll know a unit pretty darn well, and even when the hunting's tough, they'll be able to scratch out where the elk are. You know what I mean? Yeah. And to me, again, dude, that's just like a probability thing. If you're a guy that knows in, unit 35, you know where the elk go when there's, 3 feet of snow above 9,000 feet. Okay, that's great, but that's good conditions. If year over year you want to be consistent, you got to know where the elk are when it's dry, all the different things. And unfortunately, for better or worse, the only way you can develop that is to try to hunt some of the same places over and over, or adjacent units, stuff like that. Guys get very consistent, and they get good in that regard. The other thing, and I saw this a lot amongst my guides, Derek, and that is, it's a very acute thing, and that's that when they see elk, and I had to really work on this personally when I was just started guiding. A lot of times I would see elk, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I got lucky and I glassed elk up, and they were a drainage over, right? And they're there, and I'm like looking at my watch, and I'm like, man, this is gonna suck. We got to get back to the horses. We got to go over there 2 hours. We got to hope they're still there. It's gonna be. If we kill one. I mean, this stuff crosses every hunter's mind if they don't want to admit it or not. Like, we're gonna kill one right at dark. Then we're gonna be, 4 hours away from camp, and we're not gonna get back till 3 a.m. The other guys are gonna be worried. Like, there's all these things that we worry. We convince ourselves not to do it. Mm-hmm. The guys that kill a lot of elk, obviously they're rational. If you can't get there, you can't get there. But they push it. When they get an opportunity on elk to get the shit hunted out of them, they push it every time. Yeah. And in the end, it's amazing to me how many times I've been like, man, this is on the verge of being dumb, and it ends up with a dead bull. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. I hate that. Usually it's the majority of the time where you think, man, I don't know. And then you do it and you'll kill one. Yeah.
I would agree. I would agree 1,000%.
Those are the 3 that
this isn't going to work. And then
Yeah. Well, you give yourself so many reasons to be like,
you try to talk yourself out of it.
We'll find them tomorrow. And this kind of stuff,
you're not finding them.
No. Yeah,
those
it's hard.
things move and cover so much ground.
Yeah.
There's so many variables, people. Hey everybody, this episode is brought to you by Black Buffalo. Black Buffalo's nicotine pouches do not contain tobacco leaf or stem. What they do contain is a ton of flavor, and they're packed with pharmaceutical grade nicotine. The magic of Black Buffalo is they discovered a way to make cured edible green leaves behave like the texture of tobacco. and they add food-grade ingredients for industry-classic flavors. You're in good company if you roam with the Black Buffalo herd. The business was built by dippers with decades of smokeless tobacco use. They manufacture their tobacco alternatives with respect for those products that came before them. Bold flavors, full pouches, metal lids, and a brand that stands for something, American. Their products are also proudly endorsed by brand ambassadors such as MMA Hall of Famer, Cowboy Cerrone, NASCAR champion, Brian Blaney, rising country star, Larry Fleet, and Rob O'Neill, former U.S. Navy SEAL Team 6. So if you're 21 and older and you consume nicotine or tobacco and you want to join the Black Buffalo herd, head over to blackbuffalo.com to learn more. You can order nicotine pouches online, and they ship directly to most states. Or you can check out their store locator to purchase pouches at thousands of retail locations around the country. Black Buffalo, an American brand, pouches worth respect. So when did you start doing the YouTube thing? Like when?
Yeah, so I started doing it when I was operating my business. So I don't know, probably.
Is that how, were you marketing it through
Yeah,
YouTube?
no. Yeah, so I wasn't marketing like my original videos, and they may still be up. I don't know if you can sort by like oldest, but my original videos are, they were like hey, this is what it looks like when you come to a pack-in hunt, right? They may not be on there anymore. But anyways, like they would be things like, yeah, these are all old ones here. But yeah, like hunting horseback, right? These are videos
like little tips.
They would be like, if you're worried about coming because it's the first time you hunted horseback, you could watch this series, right?
It could give you some confidence.
Yeah, yep. Like here it is, man. So then they could watch this, and then they would come. Look at this. Oh, you got to turn it off, man. But I mean, that video is at least 10 years old, I think. You know, it may have been posted because what I did was when I sold the business, I moved some of my old content over.
Yeah.
So it might have been posted fairly recently, but it's like 10 years old.
Go ahead and hit that
ago.
subscribe button.
But so I did a lot of this stuff, man. And the purpose of it was just to help guys.
Yeah.
That I knew were nervous in that sort of thing. And then it became
you had the experience of dealing with it. You know, guys coming into camp and not really.
Well, dude, and it was self-serving because I answered the same emails, the same questions over emails over and over, like hours of emails every day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I got to just make a video.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You just send that video to them.
Yeah.
You know?
I would just send the video and everybody watched it, you know. They would watch it, and that's how I got into it. And it became... To answer your question specifically, it became a huge marketing channel for me. You know what I mean? Because then people that weren't coming would come, or they would see the YouTube stuff because they were going with another outfitter and they wanted to look it up. Like, hey, what's a horse packing deal? And then be like, oh, next year I'll go with these guys. This is cool. I kind of know them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So that's how I got into it, and then it's just grown since then. It's grown. I mean, now it's become.
Well, dude, it's hard to get. In this industry, it's hard to get a lot of, like, YouTube makes it impossible.
Oh,
with
yeah.
they shadow ban you, they filter this
Oh,
and
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Like they don't push you to the front. Like, so for you to have 130 to 150,000 subscribers, you know what I mean?
Oh, it's
like,
hard, man. Yeah,
that's impressive. Like that's something to hang your hat on. Like that's pretty.
No,
damn good,
yeah, I appreciate it. But honestly, beyond that number, man, I get lots of pictures at the end of fall. Like, this video helped or whatever. It's totally like an ego stroking thing, but I like it.
But it also do you think, I always felt this way when I was playing, if I would like coach somebody up,
yeah,
I'd like always learn something.
Oh
new.
yeah. Oh yeah, for
like,
sure.
Oh yeah, that's
get
the wheels spinning.
Yeah.
And like, I think the best way to get better at something is to teach.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So if you can do that.
In all the things that, like, I mean, you probably have a bunch of hunting things in your mind that you implement just from time.
Yeah.
But you don't really know what they are until somebody asks you.
Yeah.
Dude, like if you're hunting, like when you go to British Columbia on your goat hunt, I'm sure you'll be going with a super experienced guide. And ask him, like, why are you doing that? And usually they can't answer. They have to like sit, and it'll frustrate guys. They're like, what I'm doing is gonna work, but I can't really explain it to you.
Yeah.
But once they can explain it to you, then they have like a lot better handle on it.
Yeah.
It's analogous to exactly what you're talking about.
It's just like that.
Yeah.
I think it's because you've done it wrong before. So
guys
have done it wrong. Like, I'd screwed it up so many times that now I know it works.
Yeah, sure.
And that's like the best way to learn is to screw it up and fail, you know?
Yeah.
So, so what is like your big move right now? Like, what are you working on right now?
Yeah. So this is my primary move now is the membership's growing like crazy, which I would have never thought, and YouTube.
Yeah.
Those are my primary things. I do in-person seminars, /hunts. And that's a growing business. It's growing. I just did one up at Kip Folks' place in Alaska.
Yeah,
Bushwhack.
Bushwhack, yeah.
It was fun, man.
I love Kip.
Yeah,
love
he's
him.
a good dude. Yeah. Dude, I could have a whole conversation, like my thoughts on like, hunting gear and origin and all these different things. One thing I love about Kip, and I've told him this, is that I have critiques on his gear, origin, just like any other gear, but the fact that he is unapologetic about being a hunter and like and he was at Under Armour, I don't think people way underestimate how hard that is.
Oh, it's,
you know what I mean? It's like, and I'm kind of tired of the companies that aren't that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I mean, and there's what really pisses me. I get shadow banned hard.
Sure.
Because I am a hunter and I'm so outspoken about it.
Yeah.
But I also I'm doing this for fun because I love it.
Yeah.
And I love to share it with people, and I love to experience it with people, and I love to, educate people. I love learning. I'm learning something new every day.
Of course. Yeah.
Like I never deboned an animal before.
Yeah.
And then like learning how to do that out in the field, I was like, oh, this is
Fun.
way easier than just carrying bones around. Like, why would I carry bones? I can just debone it.
Sure.
So like learning little things like that, or like learning how to, call elk with a cow call, and like realizing that you don't have to bugle all the time. Just use little cow chirps, and that'll get them interested, and bring them in close enough where you get a shot, or get a good look at it, and stuff like that. So, I am fully in love with this whole lifestyle, and I feel a responsibility to fight for that.
Yeah.
And
it's killer that like the social media stuff busts guys' balls.
Oh, they
because
make it
but it's like, and the thing is like, I totally get it, man. Like it's like, I'm sure, like you said, you do it because you enjoy it. I got 1,000 better ways to make money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
but
yeah.
I like doing this, and it consumes my life because of that. So what happens, man, is like this shadow banning or whatever you call it, it has real implications.
Yeah.
Like it's very frustrating in that regard.
Yeah, you're putting in all this time and this work and this effort, and then they just for some fucking nerd behind a keyboard, they'd be like, "Oh, nope, we don't like this guy. Yeah. We don't like that. No, but this half naked girl, we'll let that fly."
It's wild.
It's like,
dude.
what the?
Yeah. And some of the stuff is off the charts. I noticed like the Montana knife guys. You can't put
a knife.
Knives.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy.
if I post a picture of like me hiking through the mountains, right? Just hiking. No weapon in hand, just hiking. I'll get, 10, 15,000 likes on it, whatever. If I post a video with me with just a bow in my hand, at 3,000 they stop it.
Oh, really?
They shut it off. They won't let anybody else see it.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? I'm just like, why? Why does that matter? Anything with a rifle in it, anything with a gun.
Yeah.
They're like so anti-gun, anti-everything. It's just silly to me. I can understand if I was out there just like blasting shit with an AR-15 or doing, whatever. But it's
being like an asshole or like disrespectful or whatever. But outside of that, dude, like it's a really interesting from like an anthropology. I don't know what the word is, but you know what I'm getting at. It, like a human cultural way of looking at things. We're talking about something that's like so fundamental.
Yeah.
Dude, for most of human life,
we've been doing this.
Like me and you would be sitting out like with a pile of arrowhead shards, like bullshitting.
Yeah.
And it's not, it'd be literally every guy. And some of the women and whatever, like everybody.
Yep.
There would be no exception to the rule.
Yep.
Or you would be kicked out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you were like if you were like the dude in most cultures that's like, I'm not going hunting, you'd be like, all right, well, you stay here while we move.
Yeah.
Because you're worthless.
Yeah, you stay here and guard the women.
Yeah. Now we're in this weird cultural shift where it's like they almost want to do the inverse.
Yeah.
And it's very odd why that has manifested.
It is really weird. It's a weird like dynamic that's gone on. Like the whole they put all these like limitations on gender roles and this and that.
Yeah,
and like it's like it's not that complicated, dude. Like
no.
We're dudes. we want to go like the ADHD thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that ADHD is just simply like your DNA code is meant to go hyper focus on something, which is the kill.
Yeah.
And
it's just
feeding your tribe. Like that is like instilled in your DNA.
Yeah.
So sitting in a classroom for 8 hours a day is problematic.
Yeah.
And it's not good for you.
Right.
And some people can do it. Right. But me, I never was good at it. I couldn't sit there for 8 hours. I had a rough time even in football, just sitting there watching film. Like I wanted to go out and do.
Yeah, I got you.
You know, I wanted to go do. And, And that was like, people are, oh, he's just a bad kid. You know, it's like, no, I think I'm just like doing the wrong shit, you know, really. And
you're wired a certain way. Yeah.
And it's like in our DNA code. And like now we have this like society of like genderless, like, It's just weird. Like there's no role. Like, there's still roles. Like, listen, you come to my house, you know who the boss is, not me.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
You know, but I think it's been that way for forever.
Yeah.
Like women are way more rational thinking than we are. Like,
sure.
For the most part, you know, they think emotionally and they think like self-preservation wise. They think that way.
Oh yeah.
Men are like, oh, how can I kill myself today? Like, how am I going to die today?
Yeah.
You know, it's like
this odd push for the assumption that men and women are not different is hilarious to me.
Yeah, it's silly.
Like when I look at my kids, and dude, I mean, I get it. There's variation, right? Like there's variation in just who we are. But when I look at my kids and I talk to my liberal friends, my Republican friends, whatever, when we get on this topic and they've got boys and girls for kids, they're like, what are these people talking about, man? Like there is some intrinsic differences without a doubt. It's a hilarious thing.
I also think it's like in society now, it's like you have to pick a side.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas most people are in the middle on most.
Oh yeah, sure.
On most, like some of these anti-hunting things, I agree with some of this stuff. That, hey, we should have, you know, I just believe in the North American model of conservation. Like that model works. And it's not really that flawed. Like it works really well. Like it brings the animals back from extinction damn near. Like it's impressive to me. But you know, at the same time, I can have conversations with people that are like on the fence about hunting. And I can usually talk to them and give them science-based knowledge and data-based points. And they will be like, oh yeah, that makes sense to me.
People are rational.
But you're never going to talk a guy or gal that's like so against hunting. They're an anti-hunter no matter what.
Yeah.
You're never going to convince those people, right? Just like you're never going to convince the furthest right extremist guy, you know, that like, you know, picket, you know, that, you know, trans people are even like exist, right? You're not going to convince that person. They think it's all a lie. But most people in the middle are like, there's all these circumstances that are like, there are trans people, right?
Yeah.
But there's also fucking crazy people.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
Who take advantage of situations. Sure. And that's where we have to like, we can like accept everybody for who they are, but we also have to like be careful and protect our kids. Yeah. You know? So it's
I mean, I think the reality.
But most people can agree on that.
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, I would say 98% of people can agree on that.
Yeah. The reality is
bipartisan. It's not.
Yeah. The reality is, Derek, I think most people, man, they want to argue and discuss different things.
Yeah.
They don't give a shit. Like the things that dominate our media, and it kind of circles back to the social media deal. Like there's probably a lot of people that would rather see me and your like hunting adventure posts instead of like whatever propaganda that's getting shoved into their algorithm. You know what I mean? Yeah. But for whatever odd reason, these are the things that this is what's happening. And I don't know the answer, but it's a crazy enigma because it's in our lifetime, dude.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, none of this was like, this stuff wouldn't even be debatable or nobody, I guess debatable is not the right word. Nobody be focusing on it.
No.
Dude, even hunting, that's the scary thing to me for hunting, man. Like hunting when I was a kid, even if you ran into non-hunting people, you didn't really run into people that were like adamantly against it. They just weren't like a hunting family.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they just didn't do it.
Yeah.
Well, that's like my wife. She didn't come from a hunting. She's from Wyoming, but they never hunted.
Sure.
They didn't grow up hunting. They grew up like in the outdoors and and hiking and hiking and camping and skiing and all that, but they never hunted. There was never anything that they did.
Yeah.
But she doesn't have anything against it. She's
Right.
like, she understands how important it is. And now, especially now, because of the, after I killed that mountain lion, the attacks that we got,
Yeah,
people
you're
were
a
like
target,
losing their mind,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think that they do that kind of thing because most guys in my position will just be like, oh, like, they'll just shy away. I'm not going to fight this fight. I'll just like, let it kind of fade off. But not me.
Sure.
I was like, fuck
Yeah.
you,
Yeah. Well, dude, it's hard though, because like I look at that particular situation, Derek, and like, I'm assuming that it's the case that it cost you like monetarily to be like that. And that's the problem.
It's been like that. It was like that when I was playing too.
Yeah.
When I wouldn't kneel.
Yeah, sure.
I wouldn't kneel. Then I wouldn't get vaccinated. All that all cost me.
Yeah.
It
It cost you real money.
Hundreds of thousands, maybe probably millions of dollars.
Right. And
But at least I can.
Yeah.
I can wake up in the morning, look in the mirror, and be like, "You."
Yeah, it was just something to be proud of.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm proud of it.
But isn't it a screwed up system that is what it is? Like, it's not. When a guy faces that in your situation, the lion deal or whatever. Because I mean, I've guided lots of guys that are on the other side of it. They don't. I have very good clients that they don't want any public pictures of them hunting, and I respect that. And it's always driven monetarily.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They have a company that caters to a wide audience or whatever, and they just don't want it to affect their business.
Yeah.
Part of me is like, well, if you don't stand for that, well, you should stand for something. But that's just my personal opinion. Outside of that, it's like, why is there this system that penalizes people financially, career-wise, whatever, for like a fundamental human thing?
Yeah.
It's really odd.
It's weird. It is. It's
Yeah.
weird to me. That's what, I don't know, maybe we just think differently, but at the end of the day, like, I don't understand why you don't want me to live. I don't tell you how to live your life.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not like I'm not trying to get things banned that you want to do,
Sure.
like I don't,
Yeah.
I'm not out, protesting and trying to get ballots signed to stop you from doing whatever, from eating fake meat, even though we know that that's terrible for you.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
We know that processed foods is bad for you and causes cancer and everything. But,
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, let's talk about what we'll do is we'll talk about like what you're working on now, like anything new, if there's anything new, and then we'll tell everybody where they can find you.
Okay.
Give everybody like your handles and everything and where they can
Okay. And roll out of it.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, Derek, the primary thing that I guess I'm growing outside of the membership group right now is like the seminar hunt business. So the in-person stuff.
Yeah.
So like the deal I was telling you I did with Kip, I'm going to do more of those next year. That's all on my website, pursuitwithcliff.com. It's all on there. If you go up to, I think it's like labeled experiences or something like that. I call them master classes. Dude, if you go to the spearfishing one, man. We got to get you to come down to Puerto Rico and do it. So I am not like the world's best, blue water spear fisherman. But what I've tried to do with any of these experiences is I've tried to foster the group and then get the best guys. And like I got one of the best blue water spear fishermen. His name's Tony Dooley, and we're doing this in the fall or in the winter here when I'm back in Puerto Rico. But I love doing this shit, man.
Yeah.
And part of it is self-serving because like I want to become a better, blue water spear fisherman. So why not get some guys that want to go down and get better at it? Maybe it's a totally new experience to them. So I got the spear fishing stuff. I got the bear hunting ones. I've got an elk hunting one I'm working on. They're hard to put together. You've been in the hunting business or around the hunting business enough to know that it's tricky. It takes the right place and all that. So I'm working on it. But that's the primary thing I'm growing.
So what is? I have questions because this is
go for it, man.
Whenever you do say you're doing it during hunting season, so you're bringing people in to do.
Yeah, we've done them.
Is it like private one-on-one or is it like a group?
We've done them two ways. We've done like the elk focused deal we just did and I did it with this guy Cade Cole. He's a great guy, and he's done some bear ones with me too. But that one we did in Wyoming, and it was outside of hunting season, but it was in the field.
Yeah.
So we did like mock stocks on elk. We went over glassing in the field. all of that stuff. I have done some, like the one I did with Kip or with Bushwhack up in Alaska, his business up there. It was a combination deal. So it's black bear black bear season there right now. So we did the seminar, chunks of it each morning, and then went hunting. I'm trying to find the sweet spot on it, to be honest with you. Cause like that hunt we just did, it was a great hunt, but we didn't get through all of the seminar because we had horrible weather. So we needed to spend more time hunting. Like hunting's dynamic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you have a little bit of that. I think in the end, the place I'll end up with is I'll do some of both.
Yeah.
Some that combine the
I
hunting.
think it would be cool to do, if you could combine the pack tripping, right? So you're pack tripping, and on that pack trip, you are like put in like real situations where like, hey, this is like, let's go glass up, a sheep and see if we can put like,
do a mock stock
on it and like get up close,
Sure.
Or let's find some elk and see if we get to 300-400 yards from them, like let's do that.
Oh yeah.
And then, but do you have to teach people like breaking down an animal? Like, is that something that like, what does that look like when you're teaching people how to do that? Cause that's what, like, to me, breaking down animals, people always ask me that. How do you get them out of there?
Yeah. And
and I'm like, you slice it down the middle and then you flip over, you skin one side, you peel off all the meat and take it off the bones. And they're like, what?
What's crazy. So we do go over it. Like the bear ones, we killed some bears, so we were able to do it. Now, like the some of the other ones I've done just domestic pigs, goats, stuff like that, just so people get a feel for it.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that would be a thing, Derek, but it is the number one requested thing from people. And what I realized, it kind of gets back to a lot of our discussion. People are obsessed with that topic if they don't want to admit it or not. Like all my reels and short form content that explodes, it is about skinning elk, quartering elk, just the breakdown of animals. And when these things get 5, 6, 7, 10 million views, it's not like active hunters who are watching it. It's a lot of other people who are like, this is intriguing. Yeah. And sure, some of them may be grossed out by what I don't know. I don't know everybody's thing, but the questions I get that come from that, you realize that, this is something innate that people are very interested in.
Well, I think think about it. We live in a society where people don't even know where their food comes from.
Right.
Nobody knows where their meat comes from.
Yeah.
Like we go to the grocery store, it says grass-fed, whatever, or pasture-raised chicken. Like, okay, but where?
Yeah.
So, and then so what happened? Did it just like magically end up in a, ground meat?
Sure.
No.
Yeah,
like,
they rationally know it didn't.
Yeah,
so
they know it didn't. Now they're
like,
like, oh, wait, this guy's showing me exactly what that looks like. I think that's great. It's really cool to me.
Yeah, and that stuff's fun because I think that, when we do that stuff in these courses, like people like it. And plus, it's another part of this whole deal that's intimidating to people. They're like, I'm going to go kill an elk. I'm like, what am I going to do with it?
Yeah.
I
mean, that's...
So...
I hadn't gutted a deer, a whitetail, in like 8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Probably like 8 years. And when I was back in Baltimore, I didn't even cross my mind. It was just something I like usually know how to do.
Sure.
Like shoot this buck.
Forgot.
And I'm all jacked up about it. And I get over to the deer and I'm like, oh shit. I forgot what the fuck I was doing, you know? And I was like, I had to what did I do? I pulled up YouTube and was like, I got a YouTube how to gut a deer real quick because I know I'm going to screw this up.
Yeah.
And obviously there's all kinds of ways you can do it. You go up, top, bottom,
Everybody's
up, top, bottom, whatever.
Yeah.
But it was funny. And then when I killed my first elk, I was wondering the same thing. I was like, how are we going to do this? Like, what does that look like? So it's like, I think that it'd be nice to know that before you go out there.
Yeah. And it's fun. I mean, it's a fun thing. It's a fun thing to learn. I still like that stuff. And the weirdest thing, it might even sound odd to some people, is I tactically like it. Like I love salting bear hides. I like knowing how to do all that stuff. I don't know why.
It's a lost art.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I find it is like, it's fun to learn how to do it.
Well, I'm sure there's some trappers back in your DNA, you know what I mean? Some of these
old
trappers that just like...
Oh, dude, and I think about that all the time, man. I know we're pushing time, Derek, but I have to like leave you with this thought, and I want to hear your opinion. I always think about like when I'm up in the mountains, you know, if I could just go back in time and meet like a 16-year-old native guy or, you know, a 14-year-old native guy, because his whole life would have been around like hunting in that environment, and they would have an absurd amount of knowledge because it's like every day, dude, like that's all we're doing.
Yeah. That's all they do. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Is providing food.
Yeah.
And hunting.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, the amount of like built up compounded information they have would be insane.
I think about it all the time. I always, you know, I always think about Daniel Boone.
Yeah.
Right. Like I would love to go back and just spend a week with him.
Oh, sure.
I mean, just spend a week on a long hunt with him. I know it was dangerous because, you know, he was a lot of his pelts got stolen, you know,
Yeah, sure.
and he was always getting attacked. But I think it would be just unreal to just pick that guy's brain, you know.
Oh, yeah.
This guy was, you know, the amount of animals that he killed was just unbelievable, you know. And coming through the Cumberland Gap and all that stuff. But so where can people find you? Like, let's get your handles.
Man. So my Instagram is Cliff GRY. I had to drop the vowel because somebody already had my name back in the day. And then my website, pursuitwithcliff.com. If people want to check out the membership site directly, it's another domain name. It is pwchuntsquad.com.
Yeah, there it is right there.
Yep. So those are the three. But my website, man, Pursuit with Cliff, that has everything.
Yeah, I appreciate the time, brother, man. Like,
yeah,
really,
you too, man.
Really appreciate it. Like, that was awesome.
Thanks for having me.
I've always wanted to like have a conversation with you anyway. So
yeah,
it's great
for
that we
sure.
got to do this. And
yeah, you too.
I think it'd be fun to go and do one of these pursuits with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I'm down.
You're always welcome, man. Thanks a ton for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thanks for listening to the Wolfe Untamed podcast. Be sure to check me out on Instagram, DerekWolf_95. Check out the Wolfe Untamed podcast on YouTube. You can listen on all the other platforms, as well as DerekWolf.com.